You all doing today? Welcome back to the Coffee and Cigar Show. How's it going, Craig? Good to have you, man. How you doing tonight? Mom is with us. What's up, Mom? How are things up there in Westchester? Westchester, right? And Rusty's out there in New Jersey. What's happening, Rusty? How are you doing today? We're here again for the weekly hang, right? So we've got some stuff coming up. We got coffee and we got cigars, and we've got we're back at the homestead here. Nice black background. The world is behind me, right? So how y'all doing? Welcome back to the show. We are here. We are going to be having coffee and cigars, and yeah, what's going on? Everything's good. Yeah, last week we were down at the Capital Cigar and had a nice time with Reinhard Porek and George. They were leading the charge on our little tasting there, so that was really nice time. So tonight we've got a different cigar. We're going to be going to our humidor. Still working well. I only have one cigar in here at the moment, and that is tonight's cigar, the RoMa Craft Aquitaine EMH Frenchy. This is a cigar that is EMH, so it's the kind of Robusto Extra 5 by 56. It is a barber pole style where basically what is it? It's Ecuadorian Habano, Ecuadorian Connecticut, the lighter part, Ecuadorian Habano, the darker, right? This darker part here. The difference is, so within the Aquitaine line and the CroMagnon line, this is my understanding, is that they share the same binder and filler. So the fillers are tobaccos from, is it Esteli, Condega, and Nuevo Puerto, something like that? I've not been to the other place. And they're all Nicaraguans. And then it's using gosh, I can't remember the name of the binder. And anyway, then it comes with the different wrappers. The different wrappers: Connecticut broadleaf for the CroMagnon, or now Pennsylvania broadleaf coming up next month. And then for the Aquitaine, it's typically ah, it's in the description down below. But this is Ecuadorian Connecticut, Ecuadorian Habano in a barber pole. Now this is kind of the converse style than the Aquitaine Saber Tooth, which has Ecuadorian Habano and Ecuadorian Connecticut, but in reverse wrappers. So the larger portion would be the Habana, and the lighter portion would be the Connecticut, right? So they would be different, or they would just be opposing. But there's the cigar. It looks really nice. Now, this is a cigar that we smoked, and I picked up at the last time we were at Capital Cigar, or earlier time at Capital Cigar, the beginning of the month of February. And this is the cigar we smoked for that show. That was the intention. But you know what, really, in those kind of environments, it's really it's not fair to a cigar to try to evaluate it and give it performance reviews when you're in the middle of like kind of hanging out with guys and partying. So I thought that I'd get another one and bring it back for today's show so that we could really have a nice time with it and really just get to sit down and talk about it and really get a feel for the cigar. Now, I'm going to sit here and mark up the page so that I know that so we'll know our thirds. All right, so I marked up the thirds. I can't really see it because it's all on this paper. Let me pull it up here. I don't know if you can see it, but there's the third markings. That's what we're going to do. I'm just running the stream from the regular camera today, so I don't really have an overhead camera. Of course, it's on the lighter side, so that's going to be our wrapper. Today is the 7th. RoMa Craft. I have to write this down, otherwise I'm going to miss out. EMH Frenchy. Now, the Frenchy, it's named after one of their salespeople, John Delivier, who I guess is French, and they call him Frenchy. That's what I've heard. And so I don't know if he was the guy that encouraged them to do a reverse saber tooth or whatever, but basically this cigar is named after Jean Delivier. And there it is, right there. So how you guys doing today? Everything happening good this week? Did you have a good time? What are you smoking? Where are you smoking? And what are you drinking with your smoke? Right, so this is a Robusto. So maybe we'll take a break on that and let's go to our coffee. I've got some. Had some water on the boil. It's taking a little bit of time. So what's been going on? What's been happening with me? Finally, with the new shop that we're working on, I finally was able to get the what do you call it? Get the contractor in line. So finally got the contractor lined up. Ordered a bunch of the materials, and immediately ran into a little bit of a problem. So scheduled the contractor to come on Monday on Saturday to start the work, and then went to place the order of materials, and then found out that this window that we need takes a month to build, and it's like, oh gosh. So I talked to the contractor, said, hey, do you want to? What do you want to do? We've got. You gave me a quote. Here's for the scope of work that needs to be done. Do you want to do what we can do now and then come back, or do you want to just wait until it's all here and we move forward then? And he was like, yeah, we can do some now and then come back for that. I was like, all right, cool, let's do that. So we're going to start by doing some of the work, and then we can finally start to get things in motion to the opening of this new spot. But that's kind of what I've been doing. We went down to so they invited me over to have dinner with them. So George and Reinhardt and Andrew were having dinner at Andrew's house in DC. They were like, hey, why don't you come down, have dinner with us? We'll have cigars. So we went down there, had a nice tomahawk steak dinner. I brought a bottle of wine from, which bottle of wine did I bring? Oh, I brought this nice bottle of Zinfandel, old vine Zinfandel from Segezio, one of my favorite Zinfandel wineries. Had a real nice time, good drinks. Had another wine from Spain, I think it was. It was really, no, Spain was last night. We had another wine from somewhere else that I can't remember the name of. Oh, another California. Another nice time. And then, Andrew has his house that's like 1929 or something like that, 1924, 1921. So a 100-year-old house, but like it's got a fireplace. And I arrive and they're like smoking. And they're like, you want to light up? And I was like, we're going to smoke in the house? It's like, yeah, man. So in the living room, there we are, like in old times, smoking in the living room. But the interesting thing was that this fireplace sucked it all up. Like it was just sucking all of the smoke out of the room. I couldn't believe it. It was just so amazing to me. What's up, Dan? Good morning. How are you doing? Or good evening. How are you doing? Glad to see you here. Glad to see you. Welcome to the show. And I was like totally surprised that it worked. And it worked fairly well until we closed some of the doors and like made the house a little bit tighter. And then it started to back smoke a little bit. So you could smell a lot more of the wood burning inside the room. And so after a few minutes, I was like, man, I better go and open up one of the doors. So I got up to open up one of the doors, and suddenly I stood up and I started walking, and my whole world started to go like this. And I was like, oh my gosh, man, it's like, it wasn't just a few minutes. It had been like maybe 10, 15, 20 minutes. And I was like, oh, this is what carbon monoxide poisoning is like. Luckily, I got the doors open, and we were fine after that. But it was like, I was a little bit surprised. So today, we're going to be making some coffee. We're going to be making the House Nation from Spiro Coffee, my coffee. We're going to do that in the Bona Vida brewer. This is the Bona Vida. It's a full immersion brewer. And we're going to take that. We're going to put a little Melita number 4. Fold it over. Put that in here. And then we're going to take some of the coffee. I've already pre-ground it, but pretty coarse. So you're trying to see it. Put that in there. And shake it out, shake it up so that we can have nice and even. Tony's with us. What's going on, man? Good to see you. Welcome to the show. And George Sham is back. What's good, dude, George? Good to see you, man. Hey, man, we missed you last week at the event. Was hoping you would be able to make it, but I understand. How are you doing today? Yeah, last week's event, we did start a bit early because the event kind of started at 6:30, so I thought we'd just launch the stream and like roll with it. Hope you guys, if you missed out on part, like the first like 20 minutes, really, there's not much going on at all. We're just kind of standing around. But the later part was better. All right, so now we've got our water off the boil. I'm just going to pour it in, and we're going to, what time is it now? It's 9 minutes. I'm going to wait for it to be 10 minutes on our show timer. 57, 58. Okay, so now we're going to go down here. hope I closed the valve. Oh, goodness. Okay, that's all right. That's all right. We're just going to let it chill for a minute. And now we're going to break that top. You know, we let the bloom happen, and then we break the top so that it gets fully saturated again. All right, that should be maybe a little bit more. There we go. Good, good. All right, we're going to let that sit for 3 minutes. Now, to facilitate this, I'm going to use, I picked this up today. Actually, Matt gave this to me. This is the Stanley thermos. I mean, and this is like a vintage version, right? Like this is like from, I mean, look at it. It's all beat up and rusty and kind of like, you know, worn. Like this is made, this was like an iron worker that took this to work on a regular basis. So it's like the real deal. It's pretty old. It looks pretty old. I don't know. I don't know if there's a way to tell how old these things are, but it's kind of cool. It's kind of cool. So Craig says, finally finished smoking a cigar out of each box that I have, and the best was the Partagas 898 varnished. Oh, varnished box. Okay, nice. 15 years old. Excellent, excellent. So is that that one cigar you smoked out of that 898 box, is that the only one that was smoked out of it? And so you still have 16, 24, 24 left, or do you have less than 24? So this Stanley thing, you know, I was actually thinking about buying one of something like this, the bigger one. I actually had the bigger one. I didn't buy it, but Matt gave me the big one as well. And gosh, they're like well over $100 now, if you can find them. So this is the old school, got the like, you know, self-drinking cup, big mouth. I think this is the one you could put like soup in. I think this is the one for soup, right? Wasn't there one for soup? I'm gonna, it's kind of cold. I'm gonna preheat it just a little bit. Ah, Craig says 18 or less. Excellent, excellent. All right, we got that heating up. Just gonna toss that over there. I got a heater right here. Got the heaters. Kind of setting my thigh on fire at the moment. It's not terribly great, actually. Let me turn that down. Crazy, crazy. And then George says that thermos was made for Elmer. And I'm just, yeah, I got my hat, got my hat. This is actually the milk hat. I got this from the VidCon conference. I took my nephew with me, and he really wanted to go. He's really into some of the creators that were at the show, most like a guy named Haminations. And they had this whole gaming setup where you could go and win these hats if you played this milk game where it's based on one of the gaming platforms. It was actually kind of fun. I played it a little bit, and I couldn't win because, you know, I'm just too old on that. I thank you. I'm glad you like the dress choice. All right, so it's 13 minutes now. So we're gonna take this, we're gonna put it on top, and we're just gonna open it like that and drain. And it's flowing. It's flowing. Right, look at that. It's flowing. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. So we got coffee in the thermos. Once we get this launched, we can start to smoke because we don't want to stay too long every night. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, yeah. Come on, baby. Yeah, that's pretty much done. All right, excellent. So easy, so easy. So we got our thermos here. We can put this in. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put this down. I'm going to lock it up so that we can have it nice and hot. All right, let's see. Like, we got the handle. Oh, still works. All right, all right. All right, all right, all right. Yeah, the other one is the bigger one, but at least it's physically bigger. I don't know if the volume is bigger, but I'm still in the middle of cleaning that. So, all right, let's go to our cigar, the Aquitaine Frenchy 5x56. And we're going to start into it already, right? We're going to cut it with it's like our MTX cutter. So I was talking with George and Reinhardt. asking their recommendation. They'll say, what's the best cutter on the market today? You know, Zykar's good. The Zykar MTX is good, but they say they were like the Davidoff full-size scissors are supposed to be the best. I don't think I'm fancy enough to have tried those. So if you've tried those Davidoff scissors, full size, not the short ones, the full size ones, let me know. I'm interested to know what that's like. And also, we were talking about the Davidoff store in New York City. Evidently, there's a, what do you call it? There is a lounge in, I think, the Fifth Avenue, and the flagship one, that Brian said that people were going to, and nobody, like people, he would shop there, and these people would spend thousands of dollars, but nobody got into the lounge. And evidently, you have to spend money, like you have to pay money to enter. So you could buy $10,000 worth of cigars, but you still have to pay the daily entry fee into the lounge, which is 100 US dollars. I haven't been there, but that's what Georgia and them were saying. So I'll take that on as, you know, pretty much whatever. All right, so let's do the. So this is something that's like when we were at the Capitol, it's hard to do. Like, you know, can we really do a good smell test? Because, you know, we're in the middle of all this smoke at this event, and we're just not able to give the cigar its proper due. Here, I feel the aroma is relatively mild. The fragrance is on the milder side. Now let's go it with the cold draw. There's a sweetness to it. I don't know if I would say that was a Connecticut sweetness, but I'm just inhaling too much of whatever that was. But a sweetness nonetheless. So I would say that's not medium, you know, medium in intensity. I'm going to say that that is just very good, 8. Gosh, why am I coughing suddenly? It's like I inhaled too much of the tobacco aroma. All right, we're going to light it up. We're going to use our lightsaber for the lighting. Oh. I think this is a little bit dangerous, right? Like you could easily scorch the side of your cigar if you're not careful. And I'm going to get a little bit closer because I'm not getting enough ignition, combustion. Ooh. It's like re-entry. Draw right there is a little bit tight. I don't remember the other ones being this tight. As you can see, it's not fully lit in the center. I'm going to roll with that. Although it's not really lit in the center, so. I made the mistake of putting a little bit of a chapstick on. So there's a little bit of cherryness in you know, in my way. So draw is pretty tight. Is not pretty tight, but a little bit tight. It's on the tighter side. It's not like the typical like revenge draw, that box press draw. It's a little bit tighter. Not as much smoke because it's a tighter draw on this one. I don't remember the other two or the other one that I smoked to be like this in the draw. I remember it being a little bit easier. To be honest, I don't remember what the cost of this was. Also, I'm wondering if I should be situating myself in a different position, because a lot of times when we've done the show from this position, I'm actually sitting a little bit to the left. And I've had the situation where the smoke is dissipating kind of to my right. And this one, it's since I'm kind of on the edge of the under the deck, it seems to be coming straight up. So to me, it's got a flavor that is that I would, and it's not a great description because it's not reflective. I don't think it'd be this description would be reflective of what a lot of people would experience. I'm going to say to me, it feels kind of mellow, but it's not a mellow. It's got a good amount of body. But if I think about my intemperance, it feels a little bit mellower to me. And Aquitaine is always one of these cigars that are, there's the CroMagnon and Aquitaine that have different wrappers, but same internals. And then you have the Intemperance Brazil out of Paraca, the BA, that's a certain way. And I find that to be a little bit darker, a little more brooding. These, honestly, overall, I haven't really liked the Aquitaines as much as I liked the BA Wrapped Revenge. And Tony says that Tatuai Fausto, Old Man Lancero, and Diet Chica. Oh, nice. Nice. So you got the Culebra running there. Right on, right on. So it's actually starting to lighten up as far as the draw, and smoke production is starting to get more into it. So I think as we're burning into the cigar, it's performing better. All right, let's do a little bit of our coffee now. It's been sitting in here for the last 10 minutes or so. I'm going to use the enclosed cup, the included integrated cup. So it's kind of this metal. Is it metal? It's chrome plated, probably chrome plated plastic, because some of the chrome plating is kind of flaking. The finish is flaking, like right there. You can see how it's kind of like messed up. So I don't think it's stainless. It's not a stainless cup. It's plastic on the inside. I'm going to pour out a little bit. Just keep it kind of capped. Cheers, everybody. Now, 10 minutes, it is holding the temperature well. I mean, it's old school Stanley, so it should. Tony says that maybe you'll like the new Pennsylvania broadleaf CroMagnon. Should be darker than. I'm interested. I'm very interested in trying one. What I was thinking, I should have bought some more CroMagnons at Capitol last week, so I could have some to compare to the Pennsylvania the new Pennsylvania broads when they come out. I'll have to look around and see if I can find one or two, and then maybe do head-to-head comparisons. But typically, I don't know. I mean, I've smoked them, I've enjoyed them, but really, as you all know, because I talk about this a lot, I really gravitate towards the Intemperance BA line. Well, specifically the Revenge. Right, the rest of the line is good, but I like that Revenge. Gosh, that thing is just that's my jam. And that and the Quinquagenario, the new one that's celebrating the 50th birthdays, I think that's super solid. like the more that I smoke the Quinquagenario, the more deeper I'm getting into it. I just wish it wasn't $16. Like in those kind of things, it's a collaboration. So I'm always curious to know, like, in that scenario, you know, I wonder how they break up the cost. I guess the whole thing is that maybe RoMa is contracting with Ernesto to create the cigar. So they've worked on it, and so they've agreed to pay a certain price for the cigar that Ernesto's setting. And then that's it. Because I wasn't sure if it's a profit sharing thing. I don't know, Thoughts. I don't know. Brian, Steven's with us. What's up, Ben? How are you doing, man? How's things good? Things, Phoenix are all right? I feel like this cigar is light. I don't know what you guys think. Is this like, I don't feel like it's being very heavy. I feel like the Revenge is heavier. And maybe that's what, like, historically, the Aquitaine is the one that I haven't really felt as jammed with. And I think I'm wondering, it's because maybe it's just it feels like a lighter cigar. Does it feel like a lighter cigar to you guys? When you smoke these, do you feel that these are lighter? Are they a lighter cigar, or maybe are they lighter than the Intemperance BA? That's a good question. And Tony says, I did join the Quinquagenario. Oh, yeah. Those are, I think they're super nice, man. Like, every time I see them, I want to buy them. I should have just bought a box. But, I'm just going to smoke a box, buy singles. That way I can spread out the expense. So right now, draw is good. A little bit tight, but solid draw. Good smoke production. But I kind of feel like I want a little, for me, I just want like a little more oomph. Right? Maybe maybe my problem is that smoking RoMa can only be compared to it's always going to be compared to the Revenge. So, it has to be, maybe it has to be something that's a little bit different, or not different, but maybe more, I can't say more robust, because if I smoke the Neanderthal, it's too robust. But like what I do enjoy outside of those is the Quinquagenario, of course, and then the Wonderlusts. I love the Wonderlust, especially the Fiorella, the limited edition Wonderlust. That, I think that's the best, to me, that's the best expression of the Wonderlust. George says that you are just warming up to the Neanderthal. Come on, man. We have to smoke it. Okay, all right. We'll smoke it one night. We'll smoke it. I mean, I smoked that Neanderthal when it first came out. Skip first brought it out. I think it was during the DC tweet up that we had at Raul's, or maybe it was just around that same time. But I remember it came out. Then the whole thing with Skip was that flat cap. He was like, "You need to use a razor blade." Razor blade. What kind of crazy gimmick is this? And then they were packing the razor blade in the box. So I used the razor blade on my very first Neanderthal, HN or whatever it was, and it was solid. It was solid. Like, it is a bit on the heavier side. Like, I've smoked them and didn't think it was too heavy, and then I've smoked them other times and I thought, okay, it's pretty heavy. And Tony says it's not a fair comparison. Okay, that's a fair thought. That's a fair thought. That's one thing that I wonder. Like, am I just stuck always comparing it to Revenge? Like, to me, it feels like this is a lighter cigar, less body. And the expressiveness is different, right? Like, it's a lighter, lighter bodied cigar that has a more refined kind of approach. Like, if the 2018 craft is this, and the Neanderthals are powerhouses that are just punching you in the face, and the Revenge is this one that just like, oh, I got my fuerte, right? It's a stronger, like, in kind of like, it stands. It's like a cigar that's puffing out its chest, right? This is a little bit more reserved. But I always kind of thought that the cigar was supposed to be, these Aquitaines were always, I always presumed that the Aquitaine and the CroMagnons are like making bold statements rather than like smooth discussion. You know what I'm saying? Brian says, hey, what's up, everybody? And Steve, what's going on? Welcome to the show. Tony says that Frenchy was, I mean, I'm not saying that it's bad. Like, it's certainly not bad. I'm just trying to find a way to describe it to you. The experience. The smoke is good. The burn is good. Like, I mean, look at the burn. The burn is good. It's white, right? It's smoking really well. The flavor is nice and there's a nice complexity to it. It is very balanced and very even in the way that it executes its flavors. I mean, I would say that I'm enjoying it overall. Yeah, yeah. You know. Sometimes you just want a little punchiness. This is a little bit more smooth, a little more, actually, kind of elegant. And maybe that's what it is about Aquitaines throughout the years. It's a milder, elegant, complex cigar. When I always think of RoMa Craft as being a little bit more bolder, in your face. Reminds me of the first time that I tried RoMa Craft in 2013. I was in Hawaii. I flew in from Japan. I was in Japan prior to that. Flew in for just a few days. Called up my friend Marvin. I was like, hey man, I'm in town. What's going on? He's like, I'm having a event at your club. And I was like, what? Yeah, we're having a cigar event from this new brand that we picked up called RoMa Craft, and the owner's coming up. All right, let's go. So I went, and they had a huge. They packed the whole clubhouse, right? Everyone, it was packed, and the Waikiki Yacht Club, as you've seen in some of the live streams from last year, it's an open air club, right? It's like if those of you go to the Elks, it's basically like sitting on the deck of the Elks. The entire club is open air, right? There's really not. There's only walls separating the club from the rest of the world, and on the inside of the club, it's just all open air. And Hawaii has a lot of trade winds, so it's always breezy, right? Smoking there is great because it always blows away. But on this one night, for the RoMa Craft event in 2013, September, we had what we call Kona winds, and Kona winds means that there's no trade winds. It just still. And man, I couldn't believe it. If you had told me before that you could smoke at the clubhouse and it would be stagnant over you, I just wouldn't believe it, because I was like, it's open air. It's not possible. But this night, there it was, just stagnant, just like, I'm like, wow, this is crazy. Super smoky. But so for that event, they gave us 5 cigars, mostly. And at the time, I think that, the interpreters had already been out, of course. So there was like CroMagnons and Aquitaines, and I didn't really know what was in the pack. There were 5 cigars, but I didn't know them because I had never smoked those cigars before. It's my very first time smoking them. And I remember I smoked the entire pack, not that night, but over the next week or two or whatever. I smoked all the cigars, but I didn't understand it, right? Like, I was like, this is just weird. It's just weird. I couldn't find the groove. I wasn't finding a groove with the cigars. I was like, these have a funky, weird flavor, and they're kind of like they're very different than the cigars I had been smoking, which were Tatuajes and Paul Gamirians. Those were like my mainstay cigars, the Paul Gamirian Maduro. So I was really I was really struggling with them. I really was like, I wasn't grooving with them at all. And I smoked them all. And then, but I got along with Skip, and I was like, oh, he's kind of cool. All right, we'll hang out a little bit. And so I found out that he was coming to Signature, or was it World Capital, the shop that's Capital today. He was coming there for an event. So I went down to hang out, and we hung out and smoked cigars. And I asked him, hey, what cigar should I buy? Of whatever. he had an offer, and he was like, well, buy these. These are the ones that are store exclusive for another store in Charlotte, North Carolina. They're not available anywhere else. They're only available here today. I was like, all right. And that was the box of the Revenge. And I started smoking Revenge. That, for some whatever reason, that cigar was the one that I locked in with. And that was like October 2013. So 10 years of Revenge. And back then, it was super difficult to get. I even ordered some from that store in Charlotte, and they totally screwed me on it because they were like, they went out of business and they didn't answer any calls. I think I ordered 2 boxes, and I was like, what the heck, man? That sucked. Steven says, Arizona is cloudy with lightning. Oh, some light rain, severe thunderstorm alert. Oh, weird day considering it's been 74. Oh, 74, not bad. That's nice. Well, be careful if you're outside. You know, don't try not to get struck by lightning. I was watching this video today of some crazy lightning strikes, and I was like, whoa! Like this one lightning struck, right? It struck, and it looked like it was coming really low, and it hit a body like a river, and it ran like a missile through the river, through the water, and like caused all this turbulence in like a line. And I was like, holy moly, is that for real? So yeah, try not to get struck. We like having you around. So the coffee, oh wow, it really dived in temperature in those 12, 13 minutes we've been talking. It's pretty lukewarm at the moment, when it was pretty hot when it came out of the thermos. Huh. So the cup doesn't hold it warm for very long. The thermos does. The thermos, the big Stanley, works well, I'm presuming. So I know that there's the, what is it called? The State of the Union is tonight. Joe Biden is coming out to talk about the State of the Union. I don't know if that's started already. I think it starts at 8. Does it start at 8? Probably starts at 8. I wonder what's going on with that. Any of you guys watching that? I'm looking on YouTube now to see if there's any live streaming of it. Somebody has that. Maybe CNN will have, or one of the news networks will have live updates. Oh, it starts at 9. Starts at 9. Okay, forget it then. Forget it then. Forget it. Not gonna bother with that. So have you guys smoked anything good this week? You know, I haven't smoked a cigar since Friday. We went down Friday to, like I said, went down over to Andrew's house to have dinner with George and Reinhardt. Had a real nice time with some steak and wines. Had a few nice cigars. Felipe Gregorio, like I haven't, like, so evidently Reinhardt was down in Miami, met up with, Felipe Gregorio, which that's not his real name. His real name is something Gregory something. And this guy's been making cigars since like the 80s. And Felipe Gregorio, when I first started smoking cigars in 1993 or whatever it was, Felipe Gregorio was kind of popular. Like his cigars were out there. And I smoked them, but I haven't seen Felipe Gregorio. I don't recall seeing Felipe Gregorio's cigars in years. So he had this really nice double Corona or something like that were Robusto. We smoked that, really nice, mild, not mild, but just kind of like nicely complex and on the milder side, definitely a milder side. Like it was really, really surprising. Like I would like to try more of that. So Tony says the El Pupo Culebra and the tea. You're moving on to that now. From the so you finished up the Old Man in the Sea, the Tatuaje, right? Good. El Pupo Culebra. That'd be interesting. Oh no El Wednesday tonight. I'm sorry to hear that, man. I hope you feel better. When is your guys' spring break for public school? I know that my niece and nephew start their spring break next week, but they're a private school. They go to Friends. Young Ma, good to see you, man. I saw you last week. We've been missing you, man. Glad to have you back. We've been thinking about you a lot every week. So, is it true you got married? And if so, congratulations. Oh, you like the outfit? Thank you, thank you. I appreciate that. I have my night watch shirt on, my black watch. I've been wearing it all week on the morning live streams. No one has noticed, or at least they haven't said anything. I don't know if they're like being gracious or not. Dan, I don't know if you've noticed, but I've kind of wanted intentionally just to see if someone would say something like, "Are you ever going to change? Like, are you smelly?" Like, I'm only wearing it during the show, so it's not that bad. Tony says that's what I had. Oh, that's what you had. You had the pulpo. Okay, that's nice. Last week of March is spring break. Nice, nice. And Young Ma says it is true. Oh, excellent, excellent. You're very welcome, man. Congratulations. We're very happy for you, man. We were kind of talking about it on a show like maybe a couple months ago. Like, I think you got married because somebody said they saw on your Instagram you got married or it looked like you got married. We're like, oh, you got married. No wonder he hasn't been around. His wife probably put the kibosh on him. So welcome to the kibosh. And Dan says, no, I didn't know. Yeah. I get it. I get it. I get it. I've just been it's just what I have sitting around, and it's actually in the mornings in the house. It's kind of chilly because I don't like to turn on the heat too much, and so it's like, oh man, I'm just gonna throw this on because it's. Truth of the matter is, I'm wearing shorts, behind the bar, so no one can see that part. Yeah, brother. Yeah, brother. Good to have you. Good to have you, man. Good to have you around. Hope we see you more. How's the fishing? Any good fishing going on? My friend was just telling me right now that the catfish on the Chesapeake Bay is in season, and if we want to catch catfish, it's a good time to go do it. They're really big. So I was like, man, maybe we should go do that. That'd be kind of fun. I really don't know anything about fishing. Like I'm totally, like the idea of touching fish is like, I don't want to, like, do I have to take the hook out of the, oh, well, I don't know why I'm queasy with it. I'll butcher like a pig and a cow, no problem. But the fish thing, I'm just like, ooh, it's strange. So Tony wants to know, are you coming by Saturday? And then yes, if so you're having COVID, is that it? Oh man, I'm sorry to hear that if it is. I had kind of a cold over the last 2 weeks, which is part of the reason why I didn't really talk too much about the cigars last week, because it's like I wasn't at 100% sensing capacity. I did think that the Mirafell cigars were good, were great. I've had the Mare before, but not in the double Corona expression. And then I think I smoked a cigar I smoked a Mirafell at Raul's about a month ago. I went in there and they had these cigars, and I just presumed they were the Ernest. I don't know if they were though. Maybe they were the Richards. I don't recall what he had back then, but it was definitely like compared to the Mare. The Mare is this beautiful like melange of like complexity and flavor. But this other one was different. It had a nice flavor. It had really nice blend, but it was also more power, more bite, more like not a lot, not like a RoMa craft like punching you in the face kind of thing, but it was definitely more than I expected. I was really surprised. Really surprised. Yes, COVID and strep throat. Oh my gosh, man, that's terrible. Sorry to hear that. Sorry to hear that. But at least you've been home, so that's good. Steve, the State of the Union is live on the Midas Touch Network. Midas Touch, isn't that isn't Midas Touch the MAGA channel? Is that right? Is that correct? Dan says, I love Zoom meetings because I can wear my PJ. Yeah, that's the greatest thing, isn't it? It is the greatest thing ever out there. Like a lot of times in the videos where we're like talking heads kind of thing, even on the main channel videos, it's like sometimes I'm just wearing shorts underneath it behind the counter. It's like, they can't see. For all you know, I could be naked. All right, so our cigar is going well, and we're on the cusp of the first third. So time to think about how to describe this first third. I'm going to say the body was more medium, right? Like, I don't know what. Those of you guys who smoke these Aquitaines, is that right? Like, do you get medium on the body for these cigars? Because I had always presumed they're supposed to be heavier. But really, I'm just getting medium, like medium in intensity for body. Qualitatively, I think it's very good. I'm going to say 8.5. Flavor-wise, I think the flavor is very good. It may not necessarily be something that I'm totally jiving with, or that I'm particularly like maybe liking, right? Or maybe when I say liking, I mean like in the idea that later I will crave it. Like think about it. Like when I think about a cigar, I want to buy more of them, right? Like the Revenge, I always want to buy more. The Quinquo Hanari, I want to buy more. The Wanderlust, I want to buy more. This flavor is good, but it very good, but it's also like I will buy it if it's available. Not like I gotta go find it, right? I think that's a big difference there. No, sir, no MAGA there. Number 2 now in ratings for news on the internet. 2 minutes. Oh, okay, cool. Midas Touch. I will look for it. Oh, yeah. I'll watch any of those. I'll watch any of the channel and just see what they have to say because I think it's kind of funny. So I'm going to say that the flavor is very good plus. 8.5. Oh, just fell off. So today, I'm using this fountain pen, my new fountain pen. This is actually, my new fountain pen is actually an old fountain pen. Turns out that over the weekend, there was a pen show here in Baltimore at the BWI Marriott. So on Thursday, when I was going to the Muirfield event, I went by Bertram's Inkwell, which is a pen store in Rockville that I go to, and I needed a part for a pen. And I stopped by, and the guys were like, "Well, we don't have that part, but there's actually a pen show you can go to that's in Baltimore." And I said, "What?" And he said, "Yeah." I said, "Where's Bert, the owner?" And he's like, "Well, Bert's up at the pen show. He's running the pen show." I said, "What? Crazy?" And the manufacturer that you need a part from is going to be there as well. I said, "What? All right, I'll go check it out." So on Friday afternoon, I went down to the BWI Marriott, went to this pen show. It's $15 a day. Tony says that is a double whammy. Yeah, man, the COVID and the strep throat, that's just rough. So I go there, $15 to get in. And if you buy the 3-day pass, it's $35, right? Something like that. And I just buy the $15 day pass because you know what? I only need to go and grab something, and that's really it. So I go in. It's like the show closes at like 5:36. It's like 3 o'clock. So I go there, and man, I don't know if you guys have ever been to a pen show, but it is super geeky. I imagine that this is what pipe shows are like. Actually, the pen guys remind me of pipe guys, right? They're just really super into it. They're super geeky, and they like know incredible amounts of this little niche of world. And of course, like any niche, it has any world, it has its own like language and technology and all this stuff. And I'm really just like Alice in Wonderland. Like I have no idea what's happening. Like I'm totally like a neophyte. I have no concept or understanding of what these people are about and what they're doing, what all this products are. How do I tell one pen from the other? And I was like, what craziness. Tony wants to know, did I see Nate there? I did not see Nate there. Maybe he was there. And then Dan says, Chicago Pipe Show. I want to go. When is that? If that happens to be the same weekend as the Chicago Hobby Show, maybe I'll go check that out. But I'm walking around totally not understanding what's happening. I find the vendor, the manufacturer of the pen that I need a part for. They don't have the part there, but they're like, hey, just call our customer service in California on Monday and we'll help you out. All right, cool. they had a pen that I thought was really nice. This kind of like gold and blue tone pen. Like it was kind of, I thought it kind of sexy, maybe a little bit gaudy, right? But a little bit sexy too. And relatively cheap. I was asked the guy, so how much is this? And normally I would find out later, their normal price is like $125. He's like, the guy looks up the price. So, for the show, we'll give it to you $90. $90. I'll come back. I'll come back. Dan says April 12th to 14th. Oh, I think that is the same days as the coffee trade show. So I might go check out that one day. You should go check it out. Although I'm almost as naive about pipes as I am about pens. But anyway, so I'm there and walking around, bewildered, and I find this manufacturer of Japanese pens in Japan named Tachia, Taccia. And I'm talking to this guy that's working there. He's like, "Oh yeah, I said it's my first time coming to the show." He's like, I'm really new to shows as well. My wife is the enthusiast that's really into it. Oh, thank you for the like. And guy named Scott Beck, and he's like, "Yeah, this is my wife." Sue, and Sue is like super enthusiast of pens, and she is so into it that she helps out the other woman named Sue, this Japanese lady, or actually she's Chinese actually, but anyway, she has this company and they make these beautiful Japanese lacquered pens that have these caps that have like a spring action so that they lock and like seal better. And they're just beautiful. They're like works of art, like truly beautiful. If you look up online, Taccia, Tatcha, and like these pens are like $2,000, $3,000, $4,000. I'm like, whoa, like amazing. I'm like, wow, this is crazy. I don't understand it. I don't know what kind of nib do I need to write with. Like all I know is that I have this like a Lamy Safari, which is a $50 or $30 pen. That's fountain pen, steel tipped, steel nibbed, relatively cheap, relatively mass produced, and easy to. And if I compare that pen to the Mont Blanc fountain with the gold nib that I bought back in the '90s when I really knew nothing and just only knew a brand name. I mean, the Mont Blanc really does write. Like, it's super smooth. Like, you're like, oh my gosh, that really, you can feel the difference. But, I didn't write with the Tatcha because I was like, oh, that's just too much money for me to touch. And it's interesting because whatever material they're using as their underlayment is actually poison ivy. So if you post your pen, which means that if you take your cap and you put it here, right? If they're not designed to be posted, but if you do this enough, it can wear out the lacquer, exposing the poison ivy, and then you'll get poison ivy. And I was like, whoa, man, that is just. These Japanese, they're very serious about how you're supposed to handle their pen, because if you don't handle it correctly, you're going to get a penalty. So anyway, so I meet this girl Sue, and she's super nice. Like she's well, knowledgeable about this stuff, and she's well connected with all these like pen people. She knows everybody at the place. So she's like a great like mentor or whatever, or introduction to the world of pens. And I don't know, I feel kind of lucky because every time I've gotten into like some new world, I always tend to meet the people that know their stuff. Like whether it was in paintball or motion pictures or in coffee, hula, everything has always been like that. I'm really like blessed. That's the only way I can think about it. But so we're sitting there talking for like 2 hours for the entire show. Now I'm hanging out with her, talking, learning, trying some nibs and trying to understand. And I'm looking at the Tatcha also makes these like inks, and I'm like looking at the inks, and I use the Shinryoku Pilot ink. It's a green ink, right? I like green inks for my daily writing, so that's what I've been using for the last several years. Is this Pilot ink that I really like? It's really nice quality, and Pilot makes nice pens. They're a Japanese company. But I see this red, and I have some reds, but they're always like more magenta. They're always more maroon, right? They're not the red. Like I want this like Christian Louboutin kind of red, like red, baby. Like if you saw that movie, Kinky Boots, right? Chilta Ejiofor's characters like, we want red like sex red, right? That's the kind of red that I like. And this Tachia has this ink, this super red. And I was like looking at it on the sample. I was like, oh my gosh, that is the red that I want. $25 for a jar. I'm like, whatever. I just need that red. And they had this really nice green that's in a similar shade that I use. And so I'm all into it. So I'm like, oh, I'll spend $40 for the $15 for the green, $25 for the red, and I'll just give those a try and see what they're like. And like, so I bought those, and then I'm like, okay, I'm gonna go back and get that other pen from Conklin. But of course, it's like 6 o'clock by this point, and like those Conklin guys, they're like, we're out of here, man. They were like, the moment they could wrap up and get out, they were gone. And I was like, darn it, I missed out on that pen. At least I got to come back tomorrow. It's like, so I was like, I called up, I told Brian, I was like, all right, I'm going to go tomorrow. Jimmy Choo sales rep, yeah. Well, Jimmy Choo, I don't know, does Jimmy Choo have really heavy reds? But that Christian Louboutin, man, that is the red. That is a nice, like, sexy red. Like, I like that. Anyway, so the next day, I go back. We're there. And we meet this one dude who's selling these old pens, these Esterbrook pens, right? This is an Esterbrook, this finish is what they call root beer. And see this little like silver thing here? This is actually like a lever that rolls a rubber bladder that's inside here. And you know when those old school, like, I don't know, like those old school movies like Three Stooges or something, you see them like do this and like the pen would shoot ink at people and they're like, in their eye, whatever. I never really understood what's going on because I didn't grow up with these kind of pens. But evidently in the 1940s, this is what pretty much everybody wrote with. Like this, there was no ballpoints back then. This is what people had. And that's how they filled it. They would open the thing up, stick it in the inkwell, close it, and it would suck in the ink. And it actually holds quite a lot. I'm really surprised. And actually when you clean it with water, like you'll do this and open it, and it really shoots out. Like I was like, whoa, it really does shoot out like that. That's crazy. But this is an Esterbrook from 1940s. This is the Esterbrook J series. So this pen is what? They're 80 years old. And it's in nice shape. There's a nib on it. Like we replaced the nib with a more medium nib that I would like to use more, right? That I like. Will that focus in? Does that work? No. Anyway, it writes pretty well. Like, I'm using it now. I like it. It's here, I'll show you this is what it looks like, the writing wise. And that's the green that I'm using from Tatcha. So that's what I did. So I went back and I bought this pen. I also bought this really small, like translucent, clear pen that's like really tiny, that you fold when you unscrew it and put it together. It's like that. It's really literally that long. And then when you take it and you post it, it becomes like more like a regular length of pen. And then I went back the next day, or that day, Saturday, and I got to talk to the Conklin guys again. But this time I had a different guy rep, and I was like, how much is this pen? He's like, oh, $75. I was like, what? $75? The guy yesterday, I didn't tell him this, but I was like, the guy yesterday told me 90. I just saved $15. Of course, I had to spend another $15 to get into the show. So that was kind of a wash. But that's what I was doing this week. Playing with pens. They even had these dealers that were selling like these paper pads that are from Japan. And I remember I went to Bertram's. When I went to, when Sean Coleman was in town, I went to Bertram's again. And Bert at Bertram's also sells some of these pads. And I was like, what's the difference between these Japanese and these other ones? What's so good about these Japanese? Well, they're really good papers. They're really artisanal made, but they're $30 for a pad. Whereas these Rodias are $15. And I was like, well, try the, and you really can't tell the difference. I was like, it's one of those practical things that's like, you get into the mindset, you're like into the romanticism, like, oh, I'm going to buy that Japanese paper made by that old Japanese guy that's been doing it for 50 years, and it's going to be amazing. But, I don't have enough experience to know the difference, right? In anything that we pursue, we don't. You know, if you're a brand new cigar smoker and I'm giving you like a Padron 64, do you really have the experience to know the difference? So I took Bert's advice and bought the Rodilla. But when I was at this show, they had these other Japanese pads. They were like $17. And I was like, I'm going to buy one. But I kept forgetting. I forgot to buy them. I was like, by the time I was leaving, the show was closed. I was like, oh man, I totally forgot. So next time we'll go back. Well, thank you, Tony. I appreciate you. I liked it too. I saw it on the pad. And there was this dude, this guy taught us, who was selling these. He had a whole bunch of Esther Brooks. That's what his thing. He was a collector that was trying to sell his pens because, you know, I guess he was older gentleman, realized that, oh man, it's like us with cigars, right? I'm gonna die one day, and how am I gonna smoke all my cigars? So he had, yeah, I presume he has thousands, hundreds of pens, hundred pens. Oh, the funny thing about that guy at the Conklin booth, right? This one guy comes up. This is the Conklin was the first place that I went, and so this guy was talking. This Israeli guy is the sales rep, and there's a collector enthusiast that's really into pens. You know, he's geeky like that. You know how pipe guys are real geeky about their pipes. This guy was that, and we were talking, and I was like, "So what pens do you like?" Because he was like very knowledgeable, and he wanted to buy one of these pens, some pen from this guy. But the guy was like, "No, I'm not going to sell you the pens." And the guy was like, "Are you serious?" He's like, "Yeah, man, I'm not going to sell you the pen." They knew each other. They knew each other for many years. And he refused to sell this guy a pen. And I was like, well, I'm just trying to understand the dynamic. And I was like, well, how many pens do you have? And he's like, oh, I have 1,600 pens. I was like, 1,600 pens. And the guy was like, that's why I'm not going to sell you anymore. You have too many pens. You need to like use them and not buy more. I'm trying to save you money. And I'm like, here's the sales guy trying to telling this guy no. Like, okay, dude, you've got too many pens. You got too many pens. Young Ma says the most captivating tale. Who knew pens were so interesting? It was so very bizarre, man. And then they have all these nibs, right? Like you go to, like I spent part of the second day just sitting. And here's interesting, like I've never really seen a trade show where you can sit at the booth, and these guys will have stations where you can sit and pads, and then a whole set of pens, like 15 pens that have different nibs, different styles of nibs, and you basically will just sit there and on the pads and just try them out, write with them, and see like how do they feel? Do you like them? And I'm like, and for each of the lines, they have like the same amount of pens. So if there's like Pilot had like maybe 4 lines of nibs, and you could sit there, you know, what is that? 60 different like pens you could try. And I was like, wow, I really need to come back next year and like go early in the morning because they open at 9 and then like just stay the entire day just trying out pens and writing. So your subconscious thought bought a Lola pen from Conklin, a Lola pen. It's not a Lola pen. It's if you're looking on the Conklin website, it's basically, there's a pen series that has 3 different styles. And basically they are like resin barrels that are wrapped in like a metallic casing that is carved out, right? So it's like a cage. Imagine like some kind of like artistic cage around a resin insert. And so there's 3 different ones. There is one that has orange resin with like a gunmetal shielding or cage. And there's a blue with silver. Is that right? No, no, no. There's black with silver, and then there's blue with rose gold. I got the blue with the rose gold. Loyola, is it Loyola? I don't recall that. I don't recall. Oh, I see what you're saying. Loyola. I guess so. I guess so. I thought the gunmetal orange was pretty cool, but it just didn't have enough pop. And then the black and silver was too reserved. Like I've already got black Mont Blancs. I want something that's gonna pop. Something that's gonna give a little, right? A little bit of like pizzazz, a little bit of spirit fingers. And that was the one. And so my cigar has gone out because I'm talking too much. Let's relate. And Dan says, I can't decide whether I like fine nibs common in my in Japanese pens. I find my writing is somehow more legible with fine pens. I have a tendency to smudge. Yeah, you know, I'm a little bit like out of control when I write. So sometimes I can like lose control of it. But I like to have like more flourishes in the way that I write in cursive. I don't really like I feel like the fine nibs have a lot of drag. I really want it to be smooth. That's what I'm looking for. But interesting, you should go if you could find a pen show close to you, like you should go because really you can sit there and try every nib in the entire collection and just write and write and write until you find the nib that you like. Like of the pilot within one series, there was like 3 nibs that I really thought were nice. Like I was like, oh, I like this. And I was like, can I buy this? They're like, no, we don't. We're just a manufacturer. You have to buy from a dealer. I was like, all right, that's fine. That's fair enough. I think it was the WA was one of them and the S. But honestly, I didn't write it down. So I would have to go and redo the whole experiment again. And then there's steel, and then there's gold, and then there's like maybe a hybrid, right? And each of those have their own lines, right? Their own like nibs, collection of nibs. So you really have to try them again and again. And then different manufacturers will have different ways of doing it. And then to add to all of that craziness, right? Sue was telling me, she's like, well, see those people, because I was wondering, like, there's these people that are like sitting there with like loops and like doing something, and the person sitting across from the buyer is like, they're super engaged with their discussion. I'm like, what is going on here? Like I saw a few of them. I was like, what's going on? And Sue finally explained, she's like, oh, these are custom nib people. So what they'll do is that they have, you can try their examples. They have like samples. And you can try that and see the way they will shape the nib on your pen to your preference. And I was like, what? It's like if we were in cigar land, if you're at a store or a show and you're like, I have a preference for this type of cigar, and the roller will be sitting there like, what's your preference? Okay, let's try this. And then you taste it, you're like, okay, I like that, I don't like that. And then you try again. And I was like, what is this craziness? And it's only like $50, right? So you spend like 20 minutes and you talk, and they sit there and they shape your nib to your liking. But she did give me the caveat. She's like, if they can only shave it down. They can't change it. So if you've got a medium point, if you've got a medium nib, it's going to be either medium or less than medium, right? Or it'll be less than medium because you can't keep the medium because they're shaving it, right? They're whatever they're doing to it. So if you want a medium-sized nib that's custom, you have to buy the bigger nib so that they can shape it down to it. And I was like, oh, fascinating. It's a whole nother world. Like I was like, oh, it's a whole new world. It's crazy, man. Crazy. Tony asking, what was Fletch from Faders? I don't know. I didn't see him. Like, of course, I'm so like, I was really just like overwhelmed. Like I was like, oh my gosh, man, I couldn't. If he could have walked by me, I would have not even noticed because I'm just like, I'm just I'm swimming, trying to understand what I'm seeing and like process what's going on around me because it's a whole different like world of stuff going on. George says this channel never disappoints. Well, never on a cigars coffee site would I get a 15-minute discussion on pens. Really, I'm just trying to fill time. That's really what it's about. Now I'm thinking about the pens for my office. Currently, I'm a big $50 guy from Staples. Here's an interesting thing, right? The 50 bics, right? They're cool. As a pen, a commercial pen for daily use, the pen that I like the most, I found this out later, is the Pentel, which evidently is owned by Pilot, I think. The Pentel G2 rollerball. Is it Pentel? No, it's Pilot. It's Pilot. The Pilot G2 rollerball in 0.7 millimeter rollerball. Man, I just love the way it feels, right? Like I used to buy them by the box because I'm like, I need to have more of these pens. And the rollerballs, they have the rollerball ink, and they always the gel ink, and it always runs out. I'm like, oh man, I need to buy more. And like I buy them, like I love red, right? So I use the red for like accounting or whatever, or marking up. And so I'll buy the G2 reds. But for whatever reason, man, my niece, my nephew, and other family members, man, these pens just disappear. And I'm like, where's my red pen? What the hell's going on here? I'm really kind of like crazy like that. I like that rollerball action, like that smoothness. I want smoothness, right? Más fuerte. Not más fuerte, más suave, más suave. So yeah, Dan, if you're interested, man, or any of you guys, I think a visit to the pen show, it's kind of fun. It's interesting. It's fun. It's interesting. It's another way to geek out. Another way to spend ridiculous amounts of money. Oh, by the way, this wasn't ridiculous amounts of money. I think this was $25. $25 for an 80-year-old pen? Not bad. I think in total I spent $180. So 25 for this, 25 for the other like translucent pen, 75 for the Conklin, and then I paid $41 for those inks, $40 for the inks. So $150, right? $165. Not too bad. More than I was planning to spend. Plus the $30, so $200. Yeah, $195. The $15 entry fees the next day. I should have there was a way that I could have gamed the second day to get in without paying, but I decided not to do that. There's people who are super nice. I was like, I can't do that. I feel guilty. Dan says, red for accounting. Superstitious folks would not agree with it. Really? They don't agree with red for accounting? Like, I like to mark red so that I know that, man, you're screwed. Give up now before the IRS calls you. So we are rolling on this cigar. I'm enjoying it. It's not, again, it's to me, it feels relatively light. It doesn't feel heavy. Good body, good flavor. Not, for me personally, it's not like a dynamic flavor. Like, it's not like, right? Like, me, Revenge is, the Kohonu 2003, Tatuai. This is good. It's good. It's solid. It's very good. It's very good. Great cigar. Very enjoying. So I went out to Saturday evening. I went out for dinner. We went to a place called what's it called? Spice and Dice. This Thai restaurant in Towson. And I don't know. Lately, I've been this Thai food kick. Ever since I did the video about the Pad Kaprao, I've been going to Thai food places, and mostly I've been buying like somtam. Which, if you're not familiar with somtam is this green papaya salad. So you take green papaya, you shred it with some, and you add in sometimes peas. You'll add green beans, tomatoes, and then you'll mix in lime, toasted peanuts, and fish sauce. And it's real pungent, sour, kind of like, and sometimes spicy. Like, I learned about it when I was back in college in Hawaii. One of my good friends, Shantira, her and I used to hang out a lot, and she's Thai, and she would make dinner for us. And she would make this somtam, green papaya salad, and she's like, oh yeah. I said, I don't like it too spicy. She's like, it's good, it's mild, don't worry, it's mild. And, this is the problem when you hang out with Thai girls. Their mild is on fire for me. Like, I'm just like on fire. Like, I'm like, oh my gosh, like this is just too much. Like, I'm just like, she's like, it's mild. I was like, no, it's not mild. I'm Filipino. It's not mild. It's burning. I'm barely able to hang on. I'm just trying to look. I'm just trying to impress you. So, but really, I'm crying. So luckily here in Maryland, you have to really specify you want it hot. You say mild, it's almost like too mild for me, right? So it's like, I can't taste anything. But I went to this place, and I ordered this somtam. It's okay. It's okay. A little bit sweet, not pungent enough. Like, I want more pungent. I want more sour, more pungent. I want more fish sauce, right? Fish sauce and limes should be pungent, right? So we eat it. It's nice. Had a nice time. At the end of the meal, our server, who's Thai, I found out later she's from Chiang Mai in the north, and she just moved to the United States like a few months ago. She's like, how was your meal? And I was like, very nice, very nice. And I'm like, okay, it was nice. It was okay. Like, not the best Thai food I've had, not the most authentic Thai food, but nice. She's like, I was like, yeah, it was okay. My friend, he was like, yeah, it was, my friend liked it. He loved it. He was like, it's great, it's great, it's great. But me, I was like, it's okay, it's okay. And I said that to her. I was like, it's okay. And sometimes it was okay. She's like, you don't like it sometimes? I was like, well, honestly, He needs more fish sauce. And she was like, yeah, I know. She's like, yeah, the kitchen table is to Americans. I'm like, oh my God, that's not what. I was like, oh, I can't believe you actually said that. I was like, but I did go to this place over in by Arundel Mills Mall. So kind of across from Arundel Mills, outside the Arundel Mills area, on the other side of 100, there's this other small, tiny shopping center. There's a Thai joint there. I forgot the name of it, but I went there one day, and their somtam is like somtam. Like it's a bit spicy. It's got the nice pungency and the tardiness. This is what I like. One thing about this spice and dice, they put a lot of peanuts, which that was really nice. Like I like the peanuts give a nice like nutty balance to it. It's really an interesting dish. If you ever get to try it, and I've had times when that's all I would eat at lunch. That's it, just the somtam. And I'm full. I'm already full. I don't want to have any more. But if you get the chance, try that. Let's go on the news. I mean, it's now what? 18 minutes into 9 o'clock. We're halfway through the cigar. I'm going to go and see what they have. I never watched the stadium. What is it? What's it going to tell me? Education Secretary Miguel Cardona is this year's designated survivor. So he's, like in the TV series, he's sequestered somewhere in case somebody flies 747 into the Capitol and wipes out the entire government. Should we be so lucky, Miguel Cardona will be the president, much like what's his name was in the TV show. Have we started? Live updates. Come on, baby. I don't think they've started. Is that right? They haven't started? I'm expecting more. I guess they, or maybe they did. Watch CNN live. Okay, let's see. I can't show you because I'm not running on the desktop. So, not that I would. It's not that important, is it? Oh, it looks like. Oh, he's just entering the the chamber. Forget it. Okay. All right, that is very. Gosh, man, it's already 9:18, man. Why is it? Oh, I guess they take their time. 9 o'clock. It's only 6 o'clock on the West Coast. Okay, I get it. This would make my cigar taste bad. So the cigar right now has started to get a little bit, has changed. There's a change. There's a little more acridity, a little more oomph to it. I don't know what that, I'm going to see how it turns out in the next few moments and see how we can describe that better. Now, yesterday I was, some friends who were in the coffee business called me up and they're like, hey, want to come out for dinner to our house? I was like, well, suddenly I'm getting all these dinner invitations. Like, this is great. I'm like, all right, excellent. I'd love to come out. So I met up, and this is a friend of mine who I met in the Philippines. He's an American guy who does a lot of NGO type of work, a lot of humanitarian aid, development work. So in the coffee world, he's completely on another side of the spectrum than what I do. Like you guys know that I'm in the retail roasting side of the business. This guy is on the development side of the business, so he's helping farmers in the nations to make better coffee, make better crops. You know, he's done humanitarian work in Angola and Rwanda, and he's done, a lot of work with humanitarian aids as well as development in other countries. And we got to talking. Craig says he's just walking around doing selfie editing. He might as well. I mean, it's his last time doing it, so give him his chance. Give him his chance. And turns out he was in Rwanda in 1994 during the war and then the genocide. Well, actually, he wasn't there. He actually came back to the United States for a couple weeks And then the genocide happened, like the 100-day genocide happened, and when they cut the tall trees. And he was like, yeah, like he's like, there's a lot of parallels from Rwanda in 1993, 1994 to America in modern times. You know, this whole thing about, you know, dehumanizing the other people and, you know, trying to identify people as an enemy. And I was like, that's kind of an interesting parallel. And he was there. Well, his wife was there and his kids were there. So while he was in the United States, his kids were in Kigali, the capital of Rwanda. And man, all that started happening, and they had to get out of the country. They had to wait for the UN. Like they waited 3 days for the UN armed soldiers to come to their house and escort them to the American ambassador's home. And then they were able to get into a convoy to take them to Burundi, which is like, Burundi, if you drive from Kigali, is like maybe 4 or 5 hours. But this day it took them like 12 hours because they're going through checkpoints and people are like, you know, trying to see like, who, you know, the Hutus are like, what's going on here? Right? And I can't imagine what that's like. And you know, you got your wife and kids. They're in Rwanda, and you're in the United States. You're like you black out from them, so you can't hear what's going on. Oh my gosh, man, this is just it's insane. And you know, I didn't know too much about the Rwandan genocide. Like I knew about it when it was happening; it was terrible and all that. But I didn't really know much of the stories about it until I went to Rwanda in 2008. So I was asked to come out and teach a class in Kigali, and so I fly out there. I'm like, I'm game to go pretty much anywhere in the world. Like if you call me, you're like, hey, can you come out here? I'm like, yeah, I'm on the way. I'm happy to be on the way. So I arrive in Kigali, flew in from Kampala, which in itself in 2008, trying to fly from Kigali to from Kampala to Kigali is like it's a chore. Like, you know, we're used to like, okay, we'll go online, select our flights, select our seats, pay for our ticket, done. We'll get the boarding pass. When you do that in Africa in 2008, like I had to go to the airport, go to the ticketing office, not the check-in counter at Kampala at Entebbe Airport, but upstairs somewhere is this Rwanda Air of like office that nobody's in. So I have to wait for this guy, and I'm like waiting for this guy. I'm waiting for the flight. The flight's like in 2 hours, and I have to pay him cash and issue a physical ticket, and then I can go downstairs and check in. I'm like, oh gosh, but this is difficult. Nothing in Africa is simple. But I find that it's a beautiful country, right? Kigali is this land of hills. Like if you ever watched the movie Hotel Rwanda, they shot that. I forgot what nation they shot, but they didn't shoot it in Rwanda because that would be dangerous. And you just can't like relive that stuff, right? So they shot it somewhere else. And that city that they shot it in is very flat. Kigali is very hilly. It's like the land of thousand hills, I think they call it. And the hotel, the Mille Collines, looks totally different in real life than the movie. But I had never seen the movie. So I downloaded the movie off the internet when I was in Uganda. Flew to Kigali. They put me up at the Hotel Beau Séjour, which is not too far from the airport. It's kind of the the outer edge of the capital, close to the airport, and really close to where I was going to teach the class. And I'm sitting on the patio at this hotel, my hotel room that night, watching the Hotel Rwanda movie, and I'm just like, oh my god, like this is crazy. And I'm in Kigali, right? I'm like, this happened right here. And I was like, just shocked. And so this whole week that I'm there, I have a host, Eric Roquaya, real nice guy. And he's taking me around. He's showing me what to eat. Like one thing about Rwanda, because it's Belgian, right? It was Belgian like ruled. So the French food is delicious. There's a lot of French influence there. So at the Hotel Beau Séjour, there's like a full French brasserie menu. Like I'm just like, this is fantastic. I'm having French food every night. It's like this is great. I don't even know if I know what Rwandan food is. Like I ate so much French that week, it was ridiculous. But like, you know, finally later in the week, towards the end of my stay, Eric and I we're comfortable enough that we can now talk a little bit about the genocide. So I'm asking some questions like, you know, how do you ask people about that? Like, what's it like? And I was like, well, it's tough. It was terrible, right? You know, and I'm like, of course, I'm wondering, are you Hutu or Tutsi? Like, but I mean, that's like, I feel that is beyond the pale to ask. Like, that's just not even something you could ask. I'm like, I'm not going to ask because if you're not familiar, basically it was the Hutus became the ruling majority, or no, the Tutsis I think were the minority, but had a lot of power, and the Hutus were not so much in power, but they had a lot of populace, and I think they came to power, and then somebody took out the president. The president of Rwanda was at a peace accord with the president of Burundi. I think it was Burundi, and they were flying back to Kigali, and they shot it down and killed them all, killed everybody, right? And that's really kind of what was the springboard that started all of this terribleness. And I said to so we're talking, and I was like, so what's it like now, right after it's all over? And he's like, well, we want to live as Rwandans, as one people. And I was like, how hard is that? And he's like, his answer is it's always in my mind. Like, I totally remember what he said to me. He's like, well, I said, is it difficult? And he's like, try to imagine what it's like to live next door to your neighbor that killed your mother. That's what we're doing. And we live together as Rwandans because we want to be Rwandans together as a one people. And we do not want to go do this ever again. And I was like, holy moly, that is just, I mean, I don't know how they do it, man. Like, I don't know, like, and then the accounts that I heard from my friend and their people they worked with, that worked for them, they're like all kind of the same message. It's like, we now pick up and live with the people that killed our families. And we don't seek retribution. Like, I'm just like, oh my gosh, how do you do that? Like, I can't imagine. Like, it's so amazing. Yeah, 800,000 to 1 million deaths in 100 days. I mean, 100 days, like the Holocaust in Germany, 6 million Jews were killed in 5 years. 1 million Rwandans killed in 100 days. Like, I mean, I can't imagine what that's like. Like, it would be death everywhere. Like, I mean, they would talk. I mean, they even there's that book that one guy wrote that's basically titled we want to tell you that tomorrow we'll be killing you and your family. It's like, oh my gosh, man. Like, meeting Eric and listening to his stories about that, and then another friend of mine in Croatia, really good friend of mine in Croatia, hearing their stories. We're all the same age, right? Eric and my friend Nick in Croatia and myself, we're all the same age. Same age, same generation, same music likes and interests. But these are guys, and I think about how lucky we were to live in the United States. Because our world was very safe. Like, yes, a number of our countrymen went to war in other countries, but we've never had war here. We didn't have to fight our own people. And I just can't imagine, like, being 19 and like having to fight in a war. It's like my friend in Croatia, Nick, he owns a place called Ellie's Cafe in Zagreb. Really great cafe. If you ever go to Zagreb, great place to go. He was there during the fall of Ceausescu. They had the whole like Balkan wars with the ethnic cleansing and all the religious wars. And I'm like, dude, like I was in Croatia in 2008, 2008 went everywhere. But as I walked around Zagreb, you could see like the bullet holes still in the buildings from the war. And that was just just over 10 years prior to that, right? There's bullet holes everywhere. And I'm like, what in the world is going on here, right? And, I was like, dude, like, what were you doing during the war? And he was like, during the day, I would run guns. So he would run RPGs and automatic weapons to the front lines or wherever their supply lines. And he was like, at night we go to underground clubs and party all night. And I was like, holy moly! Like I was clubbing at that age, right? I was clubbing in that era, so but I'd go to clubs and then I'd go home and like sleep and like do whatever and then mess around. But here you go to a nightclub, you're partying all night, and then the next morning you're going off to like support the war. It's like, oh my God. Like it's a totally different kind of life, just amazing. George says, historically, parts of the world relive this struggle, and sadly, they struggle with this for generations. And we want these countries to, and the hard part to reconcile, or we don't even reconcile this, but the sad part is that our nation, the United States, is so involved in a lot of this suffering and pain in the world. Like we talk about, the big thing in American policy today is that, this immigration thing, right? There's so many illegals trying to come here from different parts of the world, especially from Central and South America, or mostly Central America. But these people are coming to our country because we have better economy, we have more opportunity, we have more jobs, they can make money, support their families. They're leaving their home nations because in their home nations, their economies are wrecked. And why is it wrecked? Because our companies and our government have gone there and exploited them and just decimated them. Like when we look at our history, if we really look at history, like it's just atrocity after atrocity. So when I see people talk about like, immigration today, it's like, had we built better lives or had we built better societies in these other countries instead of just raping them for our own personal profit or our own nation's profit, these people could live there and stay there and never have to come here. And that was one of the big things that I took away from my first visit to Esteli in Nicaragua back in 2014. I went there for the Drew Estate Cigar Safari. And, there wasn't really a lot of talk of politics about that, but it was really just kind of, they were talking about the economy in Esteli, right? So, when Jonathan Drew first went there, like in 1994, whatever it was pretty rural, agricultural kind of city. People were poor, and all that. They didn't have much, opportunity. They didn't have much, future. And then Drew and all the other companies started coming there and building the cigar industry and starting employing all the locals. And I remember they were telling us about how the workers at the beginning of Drew would walk to work. They would walk from wherever their homes were to the factory, work. As Drew grew and as the industry got better, they got paid better. Then they started riding bicycles. Then they started riding like mopeds, motorcycles. So you would see, they saw a progression. Now some people have cars, or at least back in 2014. So you could see this impact that the industry, the positive impact that the cigar industry has had there. And had we done that as a nation with programs, really, then we probably wouldn't have all this problem with immigration, right? Like, think about ourselves. Like I would like to, I wish I could like tell people more of it, but like nobody really wants to leave their country and their families. Like, we have our families here, we have everything. People only leave to get better opportunity, right? So these people are leaving behind their families and stuff for better opportunity. And they're moving to a place where people hate them. They're going to cross the border and like try to make it to the United States through all kinds of like it must be hell to cross the border, right? Like I remember flying over like Arizona, New Mexico one year on the way to LA, and I'm looking out there. I'm sitting on the left side of the plane. We're flying west, and I'm like looking out, and basically we're right on the American frontera, right along the border, and it's all desert, like sandy, like Saudi Arabian looking desert. And I was like, holy God, man! Like if these mothers are like making their way through this desert and they can make it here, well, I think they deserve to be here, because I'm like, I don't think I could make it. Like, I know people that died coming to America. Like, I have a friend of mine who fought, he was a Contra, supported by Reagan, in Salvador back in the 80s. He was a fighter, and he would come here to work. I got to know him. And then one year he went back to Salvador. When you leave the country, you can fly. But when you come back, you can't fly in, right? Because you don't have a passport. You know, visa. So this girl that we know came with him. She got sick on the way here and died. He carried her body for like 2 days. And I was like, holy moly, like people die on the way here. They're dying to come to this country. So it's like, we really need to do something better. George says, government can't grow when distrust lies within. Yeah, I mean, it's so difficult. And that's where we kind of are now in our country, is that our leaders, politicians even, fomenting distrust of the government. Now, there's probably a lot of reason to distrust the government, but I mean, we're talking about the people that are in government fomenting distrust and like fomenting like unrest. You know, the clear parallel, of course, is people like Marjorie Taylor Greene, Donald Trump. They're all like fomenting this fear mongering, and like, you know, there's no good for us as a nation by fomenting that kind of mistrust. And Brian says, I've been saying that about South Central Americans most of my life. If we helped our neighbors, if we helped our neighbors versus exploit them, we wouldn't have. Yeah, exactly. I mean, but we've been engaged in so much exploitation that, I mean, I don't know if there's a way around it. I'm going to take the band off. All right, we're going to take the band off. So, oh, that came off really easy. And, you know, too much talking. And Tony says, fear mongering is how you push your agenda. And that's the sad part, is that, you know, people are pushing the agenda of fear. And it's like, this is really the wrong way to go. This is how we had things like the Jewish Holocaust in Germany. We had the Rwandan genocide, things like that. This is how it happens. You dehumanize the people that you're supposedly against. Therefore, it's okay to kill them. So, I mean, I think that if we look at people who are in positions of leadership and we see what they say, how do they talk about other people? How do they portray them? We see a lot of people that portray others as bad, as evil. These are people that are just trying to make a life, right? They, like most other Americans, they just want a better future for their families. They want their kids to have a future. They want their families to have a nice life. That's all. That's where we share that's commonalities we share. And this is what I see as I travel around the world. And I go to places where we have preconceptions about them. Like, for example, I'll go to when I first started going to the Middle East, Saudi Arabia. I'm confronted when I arrive there with our programming as Americans about Islam and the Middle East. Like, they're all terrorists. They're all bad people. But as I get to know them and I just get to see their world, it's like, these people just want to have a better future for their children. How is that different? Like, I'll give you an example. With, you know, the whole thing with Islam, right? In America, we have a very particular distaste for Islam, fear of Islam. But as I'm talking to these Muslim guys, I'm hanging out with them, one thing I notice, man, they do have a genuine concern for each other, for other people. And interestingly, they're not judgmental. And one thing that I really was surprised when they don't curse. Like, you know, here in America, we're Christians, we're Catholics or whatever. You know, we believe in God, we believe in Jesus, we praise Jesus. But man, fuck Jesus. We're all about fuck this, fuck that, and motherfucker, and all this stuff, right? I mean, you get a Muslim guy to curse, like that is just like, they just don't do it. I just don't understand. Like, really, it's so expressive. I can express my feelings this way. Fuck, 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 fuck. You know? But they're like, no. That's haram. We don't do that. It's like, oh, really? It's like, wow, that's amazing. And they can, I've actually felt it. Like, the times that I've let it slip, like, I can feel them actually like feeling a little bit tense and like apprehensive when I do that. So it's like, holy smokes. So I don't know. I don't know. Just different ways of doing things. Brian wants to know, how's that coffee? That's a good question. Let's see the coffee here. It is cold. Gotta get rid of that. Luckily, still have the rest of the Stanley. So we're gonna open it up and see. Ah, still hot. Put the cap back on. Thanks, Matt. This is great. It's a great find. Cheers, everybody. Oh yeah, still nice and hot. There we go. Brian says, I had dinner with a Muslim tonight. You're right. I toned down those. Yeah, it's very interesting. I think it's very interesting, very strange that they don't curse. They're really kind of wholesome people, but not wholesome in the way that I think that some of these Christian wholesome people, they're all like, they give me the heebie-jeebies, right? Because they're like so like pious about what they do, and they're like, it just feels so like unnatural. I mean, another thing about the Muslims that we think is weird, right? The prayer part, right? Like these guys pray. They pray 5 times a day. And there are different times every day, right? There's one at sunrise, there's one at sunset, and there's 3 in between. And I know when these Muslims pray, we look at them and like with some level of trepidation and fear, and it's like, these guys are praying to their God. We don't pray at all. Like, in this country, nobody's praying. Like, we give thoughts and prayers, right? Like somebody gets killed, oh, thoughts and prayers. Somebody gets maimed, thoughts and prayers. Well, we don't pray, you know. And when people that do pray, they want to make a big deal out of it. They're like, oh, what are you doing, man? But the Muslim guys, they're praying 5 times a day. They're very devout. And here's the interesting thing. And that a lot of people they want to argue about this, right? They're like, no, that's not right. That's not true. But Judaism, Islam, and Catholics, Christians, whatever, these are the 3 major Abrahamic faiths. They all come from Abraham. Meaning that these 3 faiths worship the same God. Same God. We want to tell everybody that they worship someone else. But even they talk about it's the same God. And if you look at their Quran, and I've looked it up, Jesus is mentioned 13 times in their Quran. Like they know Jesus. Like they're like, oh yeah, we know Jesus. We know he did good things. He's a prophet. Just like the Jews say. Jews are like, oh yeah, we know Jesus. He's a prophet. Muslims are like, yeah, he's a prophet. He's not the God. He's not God. He's not Savior, but he's the prophet. And we're just like, I don't know why we have a hard time accepting that. Yeah, it's the same God, exactly. Brian says, my grandmother probably prayed 5. Oh, okay, that's awesome. The older generations always prayed. Not like us now. We're very heathens here. Very heathens. We like to say that we believe, but we don't act like we believe. Like, like in modern times, you're like, oh, I believe in Christ. But screw those guys, we're going to kill them. What? Christ didn't do that. It's not like Christ was on the Sermon on the Mount. He's like, okay, those are the people that we don't like. We're going to smite them. He didn't tell that taxpayer, I'm going to beat your ass. He didn't tell the prostitute, don't come around me. You're like dirty. I mean, he hung out with Mary Magdalene, for gosh sake. But it's the same God, and I really have come to understand that better. And honestly, actually, when we think about it, like, there have people been saying that, they talk about Jews, Christians, Muslims. Jews and Muslims follow one God. But we, as Catholic Christians, follow the Trinity, 3 gods, Father, Son, Holy Ghost, the Trinity. Supposedly they're one. We say they're one, but we worship them as 3, right? So to these other 2 Abrahamic religions, we're the polytheists. I don't know what that means in the whole world of, in the whole universe of like damnation later, but something, that's something that I think about once in a while. Okay, so I'm going to say, oh no, we're still not quite to the third. So it's gone out twice, but more because I'm talking a lot. And look at this. It's now, what is it? It's about 9:45. I started this pretty early. I think I started pretty early, right? I started before we, did I start it before we brewed the coffee? Oh, maybe I did. Okay, maybe we, I was trying to get through it, faster on time. So as Biden started talking, oh, here, where is CHIPS and the Science Act? So he's talking about CHIPS and the Science Act. I don't know what that's about. The president is touting economic accomplishments. Okay, cool. Oh, evidently, Trump's Truth Social website appears to be experiencing intermittent outages, which reminds me, the other day we had those outages on Facebook and Instagram. I was a little bit concerned that my account had been hacked. Luckily, that didn't last too long. That was good. He's talked a lot about abortion. Oh, yeah, France just enshrined abortion in their constitution. Was it Alabama was the country that, or the state that said that embryos are life and something like that? I don't really understand. I forgot which one it was. Could be Alabama, could be Missouri, Mississippi, one of those southern southern states, which, just seems a bit crazy. I tend to take the position that if the being can exist outside the womb, then it's a person, right? Like you could have a developing fetus, but if you pull that fetus out of the womb, it doesn't survive. But if you can pull the baby, a preemie, out of the womb and it survives, then it's truly legit and like deserves all protection. Until that point, that's really kind of, and it's not necessarily like a religious thing. It's just more like a legality for me thing. Like, well, this is where we should draw the line. This is where I think we should draw the line, and protect it from that point forward. All right, so something has changed. It's a bit more. It's a bit very acrid suddenly, like acrid, bitter. I don't know what's changed or what's turned. The light has gone out. Hello. I think there's too much crosswind on my heater, so blew it out. Oh, Miguel's with us. What's going on, Miguel? How are you doing? Welcome to the show. How are things in your world? If you're smoking something, drinking something, let us know. We're interested to know. And Dan's asking, does purging help in your opinion? Purging. Okay, Dan, you're going to have to tell me a little bit more what we're talking about. Purging as far as abortion or, politicians? I'm all for that. All for that. Or we talk about espresso. The cigar. I'm not sure what you mean by purging, but so like, you mean purging like blowing through the cigar? Like it sometimes does. Like sometimes when I'm starting the burn of the cigar at the outset, I'll try to blow out instead of in because whatever burn is happening. But that acridity, It seems to be just for those couple puffs. It seems to be smoothing out right now. Okay, that is it. And Miguel's having a Padron 1964 Bellicoso and open a new bottle of Blanton's. Oh, nice. I had some Blanton's. I think we had the Blanton's when we were at last week. That was quite enjoyable, the Blanton's. I'll purge for, you know what? I don't really know what this purging is. You mean blowing out? That's something I really haven't done. I'm going to have to think more about that and do more of that. Seems to have helped. I hadn't even thought that was a technique to use. See, learn something new every day. All right, I think we can grade the second, third. I think that, you know what? We had a couple moments when it became a little bit acrid. So I'm going to say we're going to downgrade the flavor part of it from 8.5 to 8.25. Body, I'm still going to say is the same at 8.5. So that's 16.75. All right. Yeah. So that gives us right now, for those 3 sections or 5 sections, 8, 8.5, 8.5, 8.25, 8.5. We're at 41.75 total points, but we still have half of the whole thing to go through. Sorry, mate. No worries, man. We're happy to have you whenever you have the time to come join us, even if it's in the replay. Brian's asking, have you heard anything more about the white drink, heated froth milk with crema only? They scoop the crema from the top of this, but I have not heard anything about that. I don't know if anybody else might have heard it. Maybe Dan or Craig has heard about some of this, but Brian was talking about how he went to a place where they made this white drink where they froth the milk and they scoop the crema from the espresso and just put it on top. I totally forgot about it since we talked about it the other day. I was just at Matt's place pulling shots. I should have, if I remembered, I would have made it and tried it, see what it's like. Craig says if a cigar gets too moist inside, then a purge blowing out improves the taste. Or maybe that's what happened. Maybe that critically them tasting is that moisture buildup, and then we purge it out or maybe burn through it, and it evens up. It evens up. So that's something too. That's something. Oh, like I said, I've never even thought about that. So I'm glad we missed you too, man. Good to have you back, man. Good to have you with us. You and Youngma, we're like our longtime guys. We've been missing you guys. Youngma got married and had to take a break. I understand. We're a bad group of people. We're not the most presentable group of guys for the wives. Degenerates smoking too much. Dan says, at risk of being booted out, I had a pipe with a bowl of Lakeland English tobacco with a wee dram of Dewar's. Oh, a wee dram. Well, maybe we might kick you off for the Dewar's. I don't know those things. I don't know much about Scotch. But, we have friends that are doing the English, the pipe thing. They love that. Some of our friends love pipes. Like friends Al and Nate, especially in particular, they love pipes. They're so into pipes. Like they never come to this show because there's a pipe show that happens at there's a show on pipes that happens the same time. And I'm like, oh, you guys should give up that pipe life. But even I have pipes. I've got a few pipes. I've got a couple meerschaums. One that's a straight stem meerschaum that's smooth, and then I've got a couple that are carved. One's a claw with like lattice, and I have a calabash with the meerschaum insert for like a Sherlock Holmes pipe. I've also got a Churchwarden briar. What else? I got the suge, this really kind of cool looking suge that I have. That's the last pipe that I bought. The straight pipe, the straight meerschaum was gifted to me by a friend, Peter Gunn. I enjoy those. I don't really smoke pipes very often, mainly because I try not to travel with too many accoutrements, and pipe is all about accoutrements. Your lighter, your pipe tool, cleaners. I just don't want to carry them much. The nice thing I like about cigars, I can bring the cigar and use my finger if necessary to cut, and then if I just have matches, I can light up anywhere. Purging can also clean up the burn. Okay, awesome. I will remember that. Let's have some more coffee. Biden says that America's economy is the envy of the world as New York nears recession and China struggles. Yes, but how long before we have to follow that trend? And then Biden vows to lower costs for prescription drugs, which is what we need to do. Like, why should drugs in America cost more than other countries? If we're the greatest country on the planet, we should be cheaper. We should have better healthcare. We should have better education. We should have better prescription drugs. Our people should suffer in this manner because of cost, right? At least, that's if we want to be the best. If we want to be great again. Tony says, Dan, I'm enjoying English every once in a while, so it's okay. And there it is. There it is. All good. It's all good. It's all good. And Dan still doesn't have a proper calabash. You should get one. They're kind of nice. I haven't smoked mine in a long time though, but it's cool. Like you're cool. You're like cool. It's like Doctor Who. You wear a bow tie because it's cool. You wear a fez because it's cool. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm talking about. But really, from the Doctor Who, what I really want is a companion that changes every few years. That would be nice. Speaking of Doctor Who, is the new series running yet? I saw the Christmas special, but I don't know if the series has returned. Next month, I'm looking forward to the return of Star Trek Discovery, the final 5th season. Sadly, it's the 5th season. It's going to be the last. So now the cigar's smoking well again. So it was just that blip, right, that we had. Well, there's 2 blips with the 2 moments when it had the acridity, but otherwise it's going very well. How am I doing? I'm doing well, man. We're like I was saying, I told the guys early on in the broadcast that working on this new carryout shop that we're building. Finally got the contractor to return my call to honor his quote so that we can start building. So we're going to start building this week. Thank goodness. It just reminds me that, like, no matter what you do, the process of opening a new location always takes longer. It's always a battle, a trudging. It's like you're just like trudging through everything. Brian says, George, correct me if I'm wrong, but I recall there are 200 plus Title I schools in Baltimore City and County. I don't know what that means, but 200 plus in Baltimore City and County, maybe. Close that. Is that close? Oh, what's going on here? Oh, there we go. Oh, that reminds me is what else I've been doing. I've been like, lately, for the last couple of weeks, I've been thinking about axes, right? Like, I was thinking, I know I've mentioned this, I'm sure I've mentioned this on the show before, but I was thinking a few weeks ago about like fire pits. So Buddy's got this solo stove fire pit that, the smokeless one. I was like, that works really well. And I was like, I'm going to get one of those. Because I was looking online, I was like, maybe I'll buy one of those. I was telling Matt about it. I was like, think about buying one of these. And he's like, you want a fire pit? I got an extra chimney you can have. And I was like, all right, I'll take that. So I've been thinking about wood and chopping wood, splitting woods. I'm thinking I need to buy a splitting maul. That's what I've been thinking about a lot lately. I'm thinking I want to buy the still splitting maul. But there's not many still dealers around here, so I got to go find one. I found one in Liberty Road out in Upper Co. Oh, not but Route 30, Liberty something. Called them up. They're like, yeah, we got one. $125. I was like, $125. But it's supposed to be a good one. And I figured that if I'm going to buy one, I might as well buy a really good one because you know what I found in any pursuit is that when you buy quality product, it makes the pursuit easier to follow. But when you buy cheap product and you have to battle through it, it's like not as fun. So Miguel's asking, what is a good espresso? Wow, that's really a great question. Honestly, espresso a good espresso is one that you enjoy, one that fits the flavors you like. In today's modern coffee world, especially coffee world, the big thing is, of course, lighter roasts, brighter coffees. And I've kind of equated to the whole craft brewing movement, right? Like all these young guys, hipster guys, millennial guys in the craft brewing world, they're so into IPAs. They want hops, 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 hops. The bitter the hops, the more the beer tastes like marijuana, like you're drinking marijuana, the better it is. I hate that stuff. Hate it. I can't stand it. IPAs are the worst. Like I want to get rid of them all. Like we stopped by this brewery the other day and I was like tasting some beers and my friend's like, have you tried those IPAs? I will not try IPA. I don't like IPA. I don't like that bitter. Forget all that stuff. I don't want any of that. Me, when it comes to espresso, I like chocolate. I like body. I like a little bit of fruitiness and I like nuttiness on the finish. Add a little bit more roast development to get more the Maillard reaction, that more caramelization, that more sweet, that caramel sweetness out of the coffee. I like that. But really, it's all about your preference. What do you like? And then you just got to figure out what do you want to taste in an espresso. And then you can find either the roaster that'll make that coffee for you or makes that type of coffee that you'll enjoy. Or if you want to explore on your own, then you just got to go out and find green coffees and roast them in a particular way to get the results that you want. Tony says Fiskars are fuego. I've heard that. I've heard Fiskars are good. And Buddy says, just use my wood splitter. Yeah, I've been thinking about that because you know what I'm worried about. Like I'm not an outdoorsman. Like I didn't grow up using axes, right? So the idea of like swinging an axe, like I watch these guys' videos about how to swing the axe and how you hold it here like this, and then you bring it close and you bring it down. My concern is that I'm gonna miss and like hack off my limb, like my leg. And I'm just like, that just scares me. Like I just don't have the experience to like not be scared about that, right? Oh, thank you. But that's really what I think. I think it's really about, like, you see all these other people. Actually, I don't know if that, because I don't really watch a lot of like YouTube coffee stuff. Most of my YouTube watching is really about other how to make YouTube, right? But I always hear people like pontificating about this is the best. This is what you should be drinking. I'm like, oh, I don't care what you should be drinking. I'm not going to tell you what you should be drinking. I'll tell you what I like because that's what I know. But as a coffee operator, roaster, and retailer, it's always been my thing to look for coffees that are a wider spectrum than what I might personally like, right? Like me, I remember when I first started out buying green coffee, I'm a person that loves naturals. I love fruity naturals. The very blueberry apparent coffees, God, I love those. Like that's what I learned when I first started out. And I thought that was just amazing. And I was like, oh my gosh, I could totally love that. And if it was just off the top of my own devices, maybe I would have like gone out and just bought all blueberry naturals and had this whole catalog of like, oh, I've got all this natural coffee that's all fruity. But some people hate that stuff. Some people don't want, and sometimes that doesn't work. So, part of the discipline of roasting and green coffee buying is that you have to learn the coffees overall and like learn what is it that you're trying to offer to your guests and try to have a spectrum of those things. One of my friends is and you might have heard him. Those of you in the coffee scene might have heard this guy. He's a good friend of mine, Tim Wendelbo, out of Oslo, Norway, 2002 World Barista Champion. But him and I have known each other for decades now. And whenever we get together, a lot of times we'll have cigars. He enjoys cigars, and he's really very well accomplished. And he buys beautiful, beautiful coffees. And he's a very light roaster. He's a Nordic roaster. So we always argue about how bad light roasting is, what a waste of time that is, and how I'm stupid for wanting to do darker roasts, medium roasts. that's typically at least one part of our conversation in a day. But I was looking at his website today because I did on the morning live stream. I did a tasting of his coffee that he gave me back in 2019. And I've had it sitting around, and I was like, but I wanted to for the show. I was like, well, I wonder what he has on his offerings today that is available. And you go to some people's roasters, some roasters' websites, and they got tons of coffee, 15 coffees or whatever. Tim right now only has 5 coffees. He's very selective. He's very focused. He knows what he wants to offer. He knows the quality he wants to deliver, and he does that. And that's what I respect that tremendously. And I think that's a great way to go. I think that the thing is, if you can find If you figure out your flavor profile, and just got to go find the roaster that does that kind of thing, that can fulfill that. Tony says, provided the wood is well seasoned. Yes, the wood has to be well seasoned. I have a lot of woods here, a lot of fallen trees, smaller trees, not very big trees. And I've been thinking, I need to go chop on those things. And it's like, I don't know if some of these are like, to Bud, to your point, like, we're not talking like stumps. We're talking like trunks like this. They're like this. I mean, do you really need, I could probably just use a little hatchet to cut through those, right? I do have some coffees on the site. If you go to sprocoffee.com, SPRO coffee.com, there are a bunch of coffees on there. Our ability to deliver the coffees may be a little bit hindered because I don't have a physical roastery that I'm rolling out of daily anymore. We're in the middle. I don't know if you've heard about, if you've been to the shows, we've talked about this, but I had to move out of a roastery building at the end of the year because they were selling the building. So the roaster's in storage at the moment. I've been roasting at friends' roasteries. You know, nice thing about having friends in the business, that they're very kind and they're willing to let you come and, you know, break their machines. But I was roasting recently at my friend Sarah's place called Vent Coffee here in Baltimore. She's got a pretty new Diedrich IR12, the fully automated version. So it's got all computer controls and like, it's really kind of cool. Like I don't really get to use a lot of like, fully automated roasters, more like electronic roasters. I'm used to like using like levers and like, flying by the seat of my pants, trying to figure out like what we're going to do. But so she's like kind enough. And then my other friend, Leanne, she's got a 12K, 12 IR12, a regular IR12, manual IR12. So, but we do have some coffees there. So, excuse me, just have a look and see what you think. Most of the coffees that are on offer right now are more of a medium, City Plus roast. Because that's what I like. There are some coffees. Eventually, once we open this new location that I'm trying to build out now, we'll have better facilities. And I'm trying to get another location that we'll do the roasting in. Once that's all settled, then we can get more into like a wider spread that we have. Because I do have a lot of coffees in storage that are quite unique and quite interesting. And then I have a lot of connections to buy more coffees, but I haven't bought anything over the last year because it's like, well, I'm not, especially the last like 4 months, because I'm like, well, I don't know where we're going. So Craig says he needs washed coffees. Washed coffees are beautiful. Like we've had some really nice washed coffees recently. And Craig said he's had Tim Wendell Bennington. Tim, yeah, I think he just makes beautiful stuff. And he's really a master of that Nordic style roasting. Like, I know a lot of people around the country, in the United States and other countries, are really into the light roast, but really, I think Tim does it the best. Like, he's just got it down. He's just got it down. And as you say, Craig, he's very consistent, super consistent. Like in 2019, when I was actually in Copenhagen overseeing the Danish roasting championship. And I'd never been to Tim's place. So I called him up. I said, hey, man, I'm in Denmark. Are you in town this week? Because I'll be done on whatever day. And I'm going to be in town for a couple more days. I'd like to come and visit. He's like, yeah, man, come on Wednesday. So I hopped a flight from Copenhagen up to Oslo, took the train in from the airport, and then went straight to a shop. And we hung out for a couple hours. And a beautiful shop, really like skilled baristas, super friendly. Like, in my mind, they really hit all the right notes. Nice interior, not ostentatious, not too drab, but just really well thought. Those Nordic people, they think very nice about their design, right? Their interior design. And, he's not one of those guys that's like enamored by all of these crazy toys. Like, there's all these Akaya scales and all that. He's got these like, he's kind of like me in that respect. He's got scientific OHOS like scales that are more expensive than what I use, more precise than what I use. Like I use the C2000 models. He's using the big white ones that cost like $400 a piece. Mine costs like $50. And but just super meticulous, super well thought out. The staff is all like very skilled, very knowledgeable. Like you can talk to them nonstop about whatever coffee issue. And they totally are gracious and welcoming and hospitality. Like, can't really say enough about that guy and the experience going there. And Dan wants to know, did Tim send you a reprimand for your Adrian's coffee? Once he finds out, he'll probably will. You're like, what the fuck are you doing, dude? Actually, it's funny because when he has a couple books out. There's a Tim Wendelbo coffee book, and then there's a book about his Finca Tamana, which is his place in Colombia. And I was like, when he came out with the Tamana book, I said to him, hey man, can you sign my book? Why don't you say fuck you, man? So in my copy, it actually says fuck you, Jay. I was like, that's okay. That's awesome, dude. That's awesome. But I thought for that show when we did the How Stale is Stale coffee, I really thought that his coffee would be probably the best one to use that because he is very meticulous about his purchasing, his sourcing, his roasting, and so if there was any coffee that was going to be able to withstand that kind of time interval, I thought that his would be the best one. But he doesn't even know that I'm doing YouTube. So like he has his own podcast. Like there's a Tim Wendelbo podcast. I haven't really listened to it because typically when I listen to podcasts, I'm driving in my truck, and my truck's a little bit noisy, right? It's a 2014 Tacoma, so interior wise, it's not a Mercedes, so it's kind of noisy. And for the longest time, his podcasts were recorded at a pretty low level. Like it's not very boosted. Like his LUFS is probably 10 instead of 14 to 17. So even when I crank up the volume in my truck, I can't really hear what they're talking about. So I'm like, I haven't listened to it, but I'm sure he's got great information. But again, even in the world of podcasting, what I listen to mainly podcasting are podcasts about how to do YouTube. That's really my whole world is like, how do I make YouTube? Like I find out about coffee stuff from other viewers who make comments, or other commenters who make comments about like, oh, Lance did this or Hoffman did that, and I'm like, oh, okay, I'll have to go check that out. Like Craig, you were telling me the one time about Lance in that review for the Laylit. I was like, oh, I didn't even know about that. The one YouTuber that I would like to, like, sometimes YouTubers will collaborate with each other. The one coffee YouTuber that I would like to do a video with is Emily Bryant. I don't know if you guys have seen her videos, but she's a barista, works for Counterculture up in New York City, and she just makes fun videos. And I really like her personality. I like her as a person. We've met a couple times over the years, and really nice, really great. I thought to be interested, like the video that I would like to do with is like, me, I like to go to places and try different coffee shops. Like I want to, if ever I get to New York City, the idea is that I want to call and be like, hey, can we go to your favorite shop, the one shop that you recommend above all others in New York City, and why? And then go visit and try out the coffee there. I think that would be fun. Like this weekend's video is a little about coffee. It's about my trip to a place called Dumaguete in the Philippines. It's in the Visayas in the central part of the country. I went to this place called the Henry Resort, and my cousin actually owns it, and that's kind of why I went, because he builds these beautiful hotels in the Philippines, and I've always been interested in staying at his properties, but they're never where I go. So like, he has one in Manila, but it's kind of far from where I stay. So I'm like, he's like, why don't you stay at my place? I'm like, well, I like to go do this stuff, and he's, so it's a bit out of the way for me. Like I want to go to the cigar guys, and like where I stay is kind of across the street from the cigar place, so it's easy for me to go there at 10 at night. Whereas if I stayed at your property, I'd have to drive across the city. But I went there for a day. And the interesting thing about this place is called the Henry Resort in Dumaguete. Beautiful, beautiful property, like incredibly beautiful. Like I was like so blown away that when I was there, I was like, holy moly, this is amazing. And the really interesting thing about this is that he's attracted a bunch of the local companies, restaurants, to open up locations on the property. And they're wonderful places. There's a dessert place, there's a coffee, there's dining, there's Mexican, there's a brewery, there's a gift shop, there's a brunch bar. And so I went there, stayed there for like, I don't know, 18 hours overnight. And I shot all this footage. Finally, when I downloaded it or loaded it to the computer or the drive and I started watching it, there's no sound. There's no audio at all. I had the mic plugged in, but evidently I didn't plug the mic all the way till it clicked. It was just sitting in the socket. So it was enough to cut off the circuitry to the internal mic, but not connected enough to actually record. So I have all this footage that is no sound. I'm sitting there, I'm talking to the camera, blah, 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 but there's no sound. And I was like, oh my gosh, what am I going to do with this? So I had no idea how to really handle that because I can't read lips. I can't read my own lips and then, try to do a dub of it, try to ADR that stuff. I can't do that. I don't even know what I said anymore. This was back in June. But I've been watching over the last couple of months this YouTuber by the name, he goes by Alexander the Guest. He's this guy from Europe. He dresses all fancy and he goes to these fancy restaurants all over the world. Like I don't know what he does for a living. I don't know how he makes his money, but he's got money because he goes to like places that are hundreds of euros a meal per person. And he's got his wife with him and they're buying crazy meals. But I really like the style that he does his videos. And he doesn't, my mainline videos tend to be like me talking to people and we listen to what they're saying. And it's kind of like this kind of like gonzo, you're kind of like, almost cinema verite kind of style, right? But his is very narrative, right? He just kind of voiceovers the whole thing. He shows the elements of his meal and the service and all that. And I was watching that one day and I was like this is like 2 weeks ago, maybe a week ago. And I was like, that's what I could do for this video. And so the video that I'm finishing, I'm trying to finish it by tomorrow because it has to go out Saturday. And it's kind of in that style. Like when you see his videos, he's all nicely dressed and he's talking on camera and narrating on camera. I was going to do that, but like I started putting this together when I still had that heavy cold. So I was like, I look terrible. I feel terrible. I sound terrible. And so the other day I just recorded the entire voiceover for it, just the audio. And I was like, I'm just going to stay with that and just fill it in with the video. And so hopefully that'll be a nice video to watch. So our cigar is still going. I can't believe it's still going. I know we're a little bit over time than we normally are, but still enjoyable. I gotta say, I'm not blown away like I am with the Revenge, but it is a nice cigar. It's very good. Now that we're getting close, a little bit smoky. Here's the interesting thing, right? I tend to find that when I get to this part of the cigar, on most cigars, this proximity of the burn to my nose causes me to choke. During last week's show, when we were smoking the Meerfels, the Ernst, and then the Mayer, I didn't have this reaction at this point. Like I could smoke it all the way down and no choking. And I noticed that while we were broadcasting. I didn't say anything about it because, I'm really letting the focus be on Reinhardt and everyone. But that was the one thing I noticed about those Meerfels. They're very smooth in that respect. But I think we can finish our grading for it at least. So like I said, I think that I'm going to say we're still very good plus, but really just 825 for the flavor. And then I think the body has remained very consistent, so 8.5. So that's again 16.25 plus 41.75, 7.8, 58 points there. Now our burn and draw, we did have it go out a couple times, at least twice. So the burn, I'm going to say it's pretty low on the scale. Draw has been very good the whole time. Very good the whole time. I'm just going to have to say the burn and draw, I would say good plus, because well, that's not fair, because a lot of the burn went out mainly because I'm talking a lot. So I'm going to revise that. We're going to say 8. Very good for the burn and draw. Consistency, very good, plus 8.5. So that's 16.5 plus 58. 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. 14, carry the 1, 74. And overall, I'm going to say very good plus again, 8.5. Oh, interesting. Really? Is it correct? If I'm correct, and I will double check this after the show, Tony says 16.75 maybe. Oh, you know what, man? You are totally right about that. No, yeah, you're totally right. It should be 16.75 instead of 16.25. So we are 80.5. It's still, that doesn't sound right. I'm getting a total of 80.5 points total, which seems not right. Let me try this again. 8.5, 17 plus 8 is 25. 25 plus 16.75, 75, 5, 1, 41. 41, 16.75 plus 41. Oh, 41.75. Okay, so I'm totally making a mistake here. 75, 25, 75, 75 is 15, 58.5, 50 plus 8, 58. And 16.5 plus 58.5 should be 75. Plus 8.5. Oh, yeah, 83.5. 83.5. Okay, I think if I'm correct now, 83.5 should be the total. So a pretty decent showing, I think. I don't know, that feels like it could be a little bit low. So I'm going to say 83.5. And like I said, I will run this through a calculator after the show because my only calculator is the phone, which I'm broadcasting from. So I don't have a way to check it. I probably should bring a regular calculator with me. Let's have a Biden check. What's Biden doing? Oh, the CNN has in pictures Biden's 24th State of the Union address so far. Let's see. Let's refresh this. Fact check on Biden national debt. Biden's numbers are correct. The national debt rose from 19.9 trillion to about 27.8 trillion during Trump's tenure and increased by 39%. And more than any 4-year presidential term. Wow, that's crazy. The war in Gaza has been a pressure point of Biden's re-election effort. I think that's very true. Representative Derek Van Orden yelled lies when Biden criticized Trump. Always. Immigration has become a key issue for voters and a vulnerability for the president. What is shrinkflation? I will not demonize immigrants. That's a good thing. Why Republicans are calling attention to the death of Laken Riley during the speech. I'm not sure who Laken Riley is, but 22-year-old student found dead last month jogging near University of Georgia. Oh, okay, that one. Evidently, the Republican leaders are saying that there's some kind of connection between her status as an immigrant and crime, but there's nothing to support that. Evidently, Marjorie Taylor Greene was heckling the president. And the president wants to raise taxes on billionaires. We probably need to do that. millionaires should not pay less proportionate taxes than the average working class American. Anyway, there, actually, we're finishing off nice and strong. A little bit more power, a little bit more force, a little bit more oomph right here. That's been missing the entire time. Like, this is more of like what I would think from a revenge at this moment than the rest of the cigar. All right, I guess that's going to be it for today. We're running it 2.5 hours now, so probably too long. All right, well, thank you very much for tuning in. I appreciate you guys being here with me again on our show, the weekly Thursday Night Hang. We're back again next week, Thursday, 8 p.m. Eastern Time, so come join us. Great to see all of you guys, Miguel and Youngma. Happy to see you, Mom, Dan, Craig, Tony, Bud, Brian, Stephen, all you guys. Glad to have you. George, always happy to see you guys. Thank you very much. Really appreciate you tuning in. Back again next week. I think next week we're going to do this Tatuai that was gifted to me from Stephanie from Capital Cigars. It's one of the anniversary ones. I have to try to get the collaboration between Pepin and Pete. But those cigars are $60 a piece. I was like, $60 a piece? $120? If I didn't have the show, I wouldn't buy them. All right, Mom, good to see you, man. Tony, we as well. All right, so hope you guys have a great one this week. Hope it's well. Smoke some great cigars, have some good food, and see you guys next week. And same bad time, same bad channel. See you next time.